One of the things that we have done, in particular within CTE, and where we have invested funds, is another area in CTE that is sometimes difficult is to attract the industry professionals that you need to really truly teach the programs that you want, right? They're coming from a different walk of life, right? As you know, they're not necessarily going to be classically trained teachers who went to teacher college and then did student teaching. We have noticed that it has been somewhat difficult to attract some of these industry professionals. And one of the things we wanted to do was to really invest in career and tech ed programming. And so we decided that if an industry professional with 30 years of experience as a plumber is going to come and teach plumbing for us, we are going to start that person on step 30 of our pay scale.
Hi guys, I'm Avinash Bansal, co-founder of TomoClub, and today on the TomoClub Leaders of Tomorrow podcast series, we have the Superintendent of Orange County Public Schools, Daniel Hornick. The topic of discussion today is going to be about importance of career and technical education for all students. And I think if I talk to any parent, including myself, schools are meant to prepare students for the tomorrow, meant to prepare students for the future, and the uncertainty of future is so high right now. What's going on in the world with technology and with world globalization and careers, that I think this is the most opportune time to understand from the head of school district. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate the opportunity. I've been following your content now for the better part of the last 6 to 8 months, and I really like the focus that you have on preparing schools and students for the future, for tomorrow, and really looking forward to the conversation, and appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation about artificial intelligence, career and technical education programming, and how to make schools work better for students across the board. So thank you for the opportunity.
No, absolutely. Pleasure is all ours. So I'll just jump directly into it. But first, I would love to know a little bit background about yourself, your journey for our audience.
No, thank you very much. So I'm originally from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and grew up kind of in a blue collar family. My mom was a paraprofessional, that worked in primary elementary grades. And my father, my grandfather, my great grandfather ran a small family business. I learned early on, had some great educational experiences, and learned early on that I really wanted to pursue education, and moved to Virginia in 2005 and taught history and social sciences at multiple levels. And then from there, moved into an assistant principal and principal position. And then uniquely, I went directly from a high school principal to the superintendent here in Orange County Schools in Virginia. And I'm in my 4th year. And so, I'm not a rookie, not a super long veteran per se, but, I have enough time under my belt that I have a pretty good understanding of what's going on, and have had some opportunities to work with some initiatives and actually see and run some programs to ground. And so I think that provides me an opportunity to speak a little bit about what, things that work and maybe some things that haven't. And, but really, my number one goal I foresee for myself is to set the conditions so that our students and our teachers can be successful, right? And that's my number one responsibility, is to establish those conditions. And when we talk about students being successful in particular, I'm talking about students being ready to enter the workforce, whether it's immediately after high school, whether they're going to go to the military, whether they're going to go to school, post-secondary, and then enter the workforce. Ultimately, we need all of our students to be prepared to be high-functioning citizens. And one of the most important things that our students need is to be prepared for the skill set, to be prepared for the workforce that they are about to enter, right? In a workforce that might look markedly different than the one that currently exists, in 2026. So that's how I really see my role as superintendent, and I take it very seriously. So again, thank you for the opportunity to just introduce myself a little bit.
No, absolutely. I loved it. And I think you're absolutely right. We have hundreds of jobs, whether it's teacher hiring, retention, running a school on an everyday basis. But if I have to summarize it, at the end of the day, what metrics we are tracking is the students being a functioning citizen of the society. And you mentioned all three, right? Whether it's they want to go into workforce right after school, or go to a college, or to military. So do you keep a track of that? Like, how do you keep a track of that? First of all, do you keep on checking in with students or families of where they end up, and how long did you keep a track of that?
Yeah, so we the most significant amount of work that we do in that area are students who were completers in our CTE program, and we are tracking them for as many years as possible. Generally, about 3 years after high school, to see in particular how they're doing in the workforce. And circling back with employers, and it's a little bit easier for the students that are that continue to live and work near our community or within our community, and and one thing that we're doing now here in Orange is within the next few months we're going to be breaking ground on a standalone career and technical education facility. And we're hoping that it's going to serve multiple purposes. Obviously, one, to serve as a facility where we can expand our career and technical education offerings to our students who are currently in Orange County Public Schools, and then coordinating with our community college partner to hopefully provide some adult education night programming to help train or retrain or advance the workforce, because we really see career and technical education as being completely harmonious and hand in hand with both economic development, right, Chamber of Commerce efforts, as well as workforce development. And so when we build the facility, and we're going to be able to offer programs that we haven't offered before, in particular in some of the the traditional trades, auto mechanics, carpentry, masonry, HVAC, electricity, whatever it might be. We're hoping that we're going to see, we know that we will see more students involved and more students who are, entering the workforce, immediately after high school. And that would give us even more data points and more students, hopefully working here in industry in and around Orange, that we could track and follow, and then use their feedback and what worked and what didn't work for their experience to continue to refine our CTE instructional programming. And so that's where we do the bulk of the work, and our teachers play a significant role in that, in keeping tabs on students, after they graduate, to see how they're doing within their first few years. And we're really excited about the, having to expand our focus and have more students who are being successful in the workforce at a younger age, hopefully with less debt, and may not have to come out with 4 years of college debt to their name. So a lot of opportunities that career and tech programming brings to students, and that's how we accomplish trying to maintain metrics and watch the success of our students, and then gauge the success of our programs off of that feedback, and then adjust when necessary.
No, I love that. So tell me one thing, like when we talk about this facility, so a lot of students after high school, they take a year gap, they want to try and experiment or travel. So is this facility only for the high school, or can dropouts or graduates also come back and, be a part of this academy? or facility?
That is the goal, to make it all encompassing. And so certainly during the school day, our focus will be on instructional programming for our, and it's going to be based on the high school campus. So, it's going to be focused on, instructional programming for our high school students. And then after the school day's done, that is what we want to do. We want to be able to open the building to provide continuing education opportunities for individuals who aren't students, and they could be adults, they could be students that we're looking to re-engage, in a night school alternative setting for whatever reason, if the schedule of a traditional school day doesn't work for them. And so we are open to any and all of those opportunities with this building, and with it being on the high school campus, that's really going to help facilitate ease of transitioning of students back and forth between, the building and the tech ed center. It's going to be right across the parking lot, so we don't have the logistical challenge of trying to bus students back and forth to a separate building. We're going to be able to do it on campus. It's right there, and I think it's going to just open up a ton of pathways. And as this gets built, our goal is to have every student engage in CTE. Right? I think for too long, CTE, and in particular, some of the vocational trades were seen as that's where those students, or maybe the other students, the ones who, aren't successful in traditional school, are supposed to go. And we see it much differently. We see that the career and technical programs are where all students have the opportunity to take all of the theory and all of the book studying and the things they've done in their classes and actually put it to work and apply it. And I happen to think that the most successful employees are going to be the ones that, that took advanced placement, IB, dual enrollment. They took honors courses, but they also took cybersecurity classes and came out with a certification. They did culinary, they did auto tech, they did robotics, they learned how to weld. I actually think those are going to be your most marketable employees moving forward. And so, our mission is going to be, as we're able to expand our programming, that all students are going to invest time and are going to participate somewhere and within some CTE programming. Not going to be for those other students. It's going to be for all students.
No, I love that. I think it's so true that this was looked down upon in a way that,
Yes.
and I think the times are changing, even at the employer end. When you're hiring folks, you're looking for skills, not degrees. So I think right now, with everything changing, higher ed education or institutions are definitely needs to rethink their entire structure. And I'm glad you guys are taking up so many steps to ensure that. But I would
also say that in addition to higher ed, K-12 needs to adapt its structure too. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the vast majority of K-12 institutions are still based on, kind of an assembly line, 1800s kind of model, bell to bell, and it kind of promotes, departments and subjects that are siloed, and the structure doesn't allow natural interconnectedness. It actually promotes individuality and silos, and that, I think, CTE programming in particular can break down those silos. If I think about students in an auto tech program, right? What are the skills that they need? Of course, a good portion of their skills are the technical skills to actually repair and update and upgrade and improve a vehicle, right? That is certainly an important skill. But there are a ton of other skills that they need to be able to do. They need to be able to have the ability to communicate with customers. They have to be able to think creatively, critically. They have to know their math. They have to have so many other skills that directly translate into a skill that you need to do for any job, right? And if you're going to college, you need to be able to engage with people, think critically. You need to, so the same skills that make you marketable in the job force, right? The soft skills are the same skills you need to be successful if you decide to go to a 4-year school. And those are the skills that, adults are trying to help our kids round out all the way through post-secondary education. So that's really what the point that I'm getting at is moving away from seeing CTE as, the other alternative pathway for the non-traditional students. No, the skills that are being honed in CTE are the same traditional soft skills that you need to be successful in any walk of life. And I think that's the barrier breakdown that needs to happen. And that's where the individual silos of departments and subjects in traditional K-12 schools can be broken down. It's set up to happen in our CTE labs, right? That's how the curriculum is built, the hands-on activities. You don't have to find a way to make it work. That's how it's designed. So we need to harness that power and move with it.
No, it's almost like you're speaking my mind right now, because I'm totally with you. Whether it's soft skills or hard skills, I think whether you're applying for a college, so what are you going to write in that essay? What are you going to show who you are? It's going to be, apart from the grades that you've got in your academics, it's going to be these other skill sets that you have honed, whether you want to go into military or you want to go into a workforce. So I think you have really nailed it when you said that how you're going to talk to our customers. So I tell a lot of my family members, I tell them, their kids, when they ask me that what should I be doing in the summer, I said, go sell something. I think if you can,
Yes.
just do something online, just put up some products. I'll give you 100 units of some product that you want to buy, and just learn how to sell. Whether pick up the phone and
that written word and that spoken word,
yeah,
right? That ability to communicate is so important, right? Whether it's in high school, college, whether it's after you're done with you have to have those skills, right? You have to be able to write up a clear quality estimate, since I'm using auto as the example, for if you're an employee at Firestone or anywhere else. You have to be able to communicate what you need to do to a vehicle to the customer in both a written and verbal context, right? And so that skill set translates across the board. It's not going to go away. And, even with AI and all the other inventions and technologies that are coming, nothing is going to be able to replace the relationship between an employee, vendor, and their customer in this particular sense, and the relationship and the trust that you have to build. That's a human quality that the technology won't be able to replace. And those skills are really important for our kids.
Absolutely. So definitely we have established the importance, and it's for all, not for some kids. So I think now I would want you to be a little critical about your own efforts, because that's one of the hardest thing to do, because you fall in love with what's working. So what do you think, where are you guys falling short right now in your current CT programs?
Yeah. So where we have fallen short in the past number of years has been in the diversity of the programs that we could offer, and it's been primarily due to space constraints within the physical structure of the building. And so we live, Orange County, we live in a rural part of Central Virginia, northern Central Virginia, and the ag industry is very important here, as well as a lot of blue collar jobs and workers. And we have not, although we know that we have needed these programs, and we know that the local economy and our local industry folks and business leaders have been clamoring for this type of program, we haven't been able to bring it forward because we haven't had the space. And so where we've been falling short is we haven't been able to 100% marry our course offerings with the needs of the local economy. And that's where this particular building is going to help bridge that gap, because we listen to our business leaders over the last 15, 20 years. It's been a long time that a CTE facility has been discussed in Orange. And so we know very well from business leaders, economic development, Chamber of Commerce, what types of things Orange County businesses and business leaders need. And so we've fallen short with the ability to really tailor our program to the local market needs. And this facility is a step in helping to remediate that problem and bring our programming more in line with the needs of the local economy. But that's been our biggest area of where we have fallen short, and it's primarily because of space, but it's absolutely something we have to acknowledge, that we haven't been providing these opportunities for students regardless of the reason, and we know that the local economy is demanding and clamoring for these types of opportunities for students.
No, that makes sense, and I'm glad you guys are actively working on it, and it feels like it's gonna be almost solved. So I like to be critical about sometimes thinking from the incentivization point of view. We all know what's right for our students, right? Though sometimes we're not able to do it because of lack of funds or because of some structural issues. So I always tend to know, how is the system incentivized to the people who are working on it to double down? So is it any grants that you get, or is it a part of thing that's aligned to, that's tied to the funding formula for the school that you get from the district, like, per student basis? How is the dollar part associated in this for you guys?
Okay, and you talk in particular with trying to bring this facility online?
Overall, how, if our students are doing better, like on whatever metrics you guys are tracking, how is that incentivized to you guys as a district?
Yeah, and so one of the things that we have done, in particular within CTE, and where we have invested funds, is another area in CTE that is sometimes difficult is to attract the industry professionals that you need to really truly teach the programs that you want, right? They're coming from a different walk of life, right? As you know, they're not necessarily going to be classically trained teachers who went to teacher college and then did student teaching. They are nurses, plumbers, they're master chefs, and whatever it might be. And so we have noticed that it has been somewhat difficult to attract some of these industry professionals. And so when I came to Orange, and we actually, at the beginning of my tenure, we began a new strategic plan, because our previous strategic plan was coming to an end after 5 years. And one of the things we wanted to do was to really invest in career and tech ed programming. And so we decided that if an industry professional with 30 years of experience as a plumber is going to come and teach plumbing for us, we are going to start that person on step 30 of our pay scale, right? Even though they're going to be a first-year teacher, we know that that's not going to be sufficient. They have had 30 years of experience in life, and their life is now at a point where a particular salary is needed. That's how their life has evolved, and certainly that puts pressure on salary scales and the budget. But we felt it was absolutely necessary if we want to offer this high quality programming that as you know, all the research shows the number one factor that makes a difference in moving the needle for student achievement is the quality of the instructor or the teacher that's in front of them. And so to really entice and bring the quality of individuals we need forward, that is an example of of something we've withstood, even though it brings budgetary pressure, to make sure that we can attract and retain the highest possible quality employees, in particular to teach in our career and tech programming, as one example.
No, that makes sense, because I think a lot of school leaders who will be consuming this content, the biggest factor is how do they prove ROI to the board and the community, right? So
Yes.
that becomes definitely a big challenge to address even before anything is put into action.
Correct. And we also, we've spent a lot of time out in the community and in presentations to garner support for this particular facility, with visuals and narrative about, telling the story about how this building can help move an entire community forward, how this building is more than just for the high school students, going back to our previous part of this conversation where you asked, was this also going to be open to other groups at other times of the day? And that answer is yes, because we want this to be an innovative center, a hub for developing and refining and training the future workforce, whether that is current high school students or current working professionals that are maybe looking to add to their credential or maybe switch years. And it's really important to tell the story of how that this particular structure and the programming that we can put inside of it can be transformational for an entire community. And that's where, it benefits an entire community, helping everyone understand how this particular step has massive potential for return on investment. And that's, telling that narrative and being able to capture it is really, really important.
Right. No, absolutely. And also, I would love to know, is there any new program or a new partner that recently you guys got on board? And what made you guys decide, that it's worth piloting with them? And just to know, what factor did you took in account while the pilot was happening? Because a lot of time pilots usually get killed because of bad execution. So I would really want you to, give us an example and walk us through.
Sure, I like that. So yeah, an example of a pilot program that we have run here is, I'm going to call it what we call our Aero Core, and we use it, and it's a play on our OC for Orange County for Aero Core. But the idea behind it is, as I was leaving the principalship and coming to the superintendency, I had a professional relationship with a gentleman who was interested in expanding the science of flight, and in particular drone technology, to younger students, to get them interested in the technology, in particular drones, as well as esports and programming, so that they could open their eyes to the world of technology and how many job opportunities, quite frankly, there are for individuals who have skills within this particular sector. And so the partner was Smart Community STEM. And we also then partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Charlottesville, Virginia. And how it worked was, we sent a group each summer. We send a group of high school students to the University of Mary Washington, which is a college about 45 minutes up the road, for an immersive week-long STEM camp. And they learn and they have opportunities to work on flight simulators, actually fly drones. They work on the NIST course, and they learn exactly how you would actually pilot the drone and what you would need to do to get your Part 107 license. And so basically, our high school students become instructors, and then Smart Community STEM hires them as W-9s. And so our high school students are getting paid by Smart Community STEM to come into the Boys and Girls Club after school, which is hosted in our buildings. And they're teaching our elementary and middle school kids about the technology that they learned at summer camp. And we're layering and building this. We're trying to build up this skill set and this interest in younger students. And so when they get to high school, and we have quite a robust tech ed program with with a lot of success in drone competitions, in robotics, and a number of other technical areas to really bolster that programming and get more students interested. And so we started it as a pilot program the first year. And the reason that we felt that it made sense was, number one, this particular pilot had it was low cost to the school division. It was. The extent of the cost the first year was we fronted the money to send the high school students to the STEM camp at University of Mary Washington. And then from there, Smart Community STEM, our partner on the STEM side, they were operating primarily with donations and other funds from Little Arm Studios, Skydio, and other corporate partners and vendors that are in that world. But we just valued it tremendously because we have a pretty robust tech ed program at the high school, and we were looking to have more students see the value in this programming and want to participate. Plus, between ag, public safety, marketing, and all the other different industries that are now harnessing the power of drones and drone technologies and how drone pilots are in demand, we felt that it was a worthy pilot to try. And we've had tremendous success. And now it's actually built into it's no longer a pilot. We're now going into our, fourth year of doing this. And it has really made a difference for a number of students, both high school and, elementary, middle school students. And so that's an example of a pilot program. We identified the need. We knew what we wanted to accomplish, why we wanted to do it, and how we saw it through to the end, and how it's now, a fully functioning program within, our after school activity repertoire. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's a great example, and a lot of people can take notes from that, how to make a pilot to a full-fledged established
Yes.
program. So thank you so much for sharing that. And last question that I want to ask, because no podcast can be without discussing about AI. So tell me, in the last 6 months or 12 months, what has impacted in your CG program with respect to AI?
Yes. So primarily, it has been setting from a division level, setting guidelines and parameters and training teachers on ethical use, effective use, how it can not only save time in planning and differentiation, et cetera. I would say that's a little bit easier than thinking very critically about how teachers can best engage students and teach students how to harness the power of AI safely, properly, and effectively. And so we have spent time with numerous other school divisions in regional cohorts, as well as a full task force that we have here to establish guidelines, parameters, policy. And then we did that with, about a year ago. We started that work, and then as that work was coming to completion, at the same time, we were also training. When we're starting with our most willing teachers who are already, more AI savants, and getting them the training for some of the school-specific parameters that we want to have, and then utilizing that teacher-to-teacher, train-to-trainer model to get the word out and to show other teachers how it can be effective. And so that's really been the crux of our work over the last 6 to 8 months. Has actually, the banks on the river have been set, all right? The parameters have been set. Now the work has really laid into how to properly and safely and effectively integrate AI into the classroom. And so we are in the middle of that work. We certainly haven't completed it. And I don't know that it will ever necessarily be complete, because generative AI is going to continue to evolve and become more powerful and more all-encompassing. So the work on how to best integrate it probably won't ever be done. But it has a tremendous impact And we see it in all subjects, and of course within career and technical programming. And if we pretend like it doesn't exist, if we don't engage students and show them how to utilize it properly, going back to the beginning part of our conversation, we 100% are not setting them up to be successful for the economy and the workforce that they're going to enter into, because to pretend that AI is going to, go away or doesn't exist is absolutely, in my opinion, the wrong step to take. If our goal is tomorrow and preparing students for tomorrow, we need to take the time to integrate AI, integrate ethical AI use instruction into our current programming, or we are setting our students up for failure. I mean, they have to know the power, the dangers, how best to harness it. And that is a new reality for schools. But quite honestly, I don't really think that it's, a completely new thing. I mean, when we went from hardback encyclopedias, and then Google and other search engines started taking over the world, a lot of us, me included, were like, man, this is going to transform education. And we had to adjust, and we had to teach students how not to plagiarize, how to use search engines, what is the proper source, how do you vet it, how do you look at bias. It's the same work now that we have to do with AI. Certainly AI is more powerful. Certainly it can potentially have maybe more dangers, more opportunities with it. But it's not the first time that education has been faced with a global technology change that we have had to respond to, right? And so now it's figuring out how to respond. We figured out how to respond to the internet, right? This is the next thing we're responding to. And then at some point in the future, there's going to be another thing we have to respond to, right? So change and adapting to change is our continuity, right? And educators have to be comfortable with, we're not always going to be masters of everything. The world is changing faster than our curriculum is changing. And so the most effective AI integration is going to come from, again, the teachers who integrate it and teach it the most effectively at the grassroots level in the individual classrooms or labs in our schools. And that's kind of where we are. And I guess I'm maybe a little philosophical about AI, but watching your podcast and looking at your content, I know you agree broadly with that philosophy, and we just can't pretend like AI doesn't exist. That would be a step backward for sure.
In fact, in my opinion, either you can embrace AI and it will become your best friend, and you'll have more face time with your kids and more effective face time with your kids, or you can just ignore it and it will become your biggest enemy, because students are going to use it for academic integrity, for critical thinking loss, and then you have to deal with it even if you don't like it. So I would say there is no ignoring it. And I think you are on the right track with that opinion and love it. I think I'm more confident now, or Orange County is in the right direction with the CT program. And I think kids are really going to do well, although it's an uncertain world. But I think when you mentioned very initially that it's the skills like adaptability and communication, hopefully that should prepare them to keep themselves evolving, right? Because as a professional myself, I have to keep on evolving myself. As a professional, you are evolving yourself. So it's about that mindset. And earlier it is set to be flexible, better it is.
And hopefully we get the building off the ground and we get the programs in. Maybe we could follow up and have a follow-up podcast or a follow-up meeting to talk about, here were the plans, and here's where we are, and here's how we're moving forward. Talk about the adjustments. So it's sometime in the not too distant future, I'd love to come back on and follow up with you to talk about the highlights of what we're doing.
No, I would love that. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic talking to you today.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Appreciate your time.